Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. With just a month to go until BTS's full group comeback, anticipation is building not only among fans but across the global music industry. After 4 years, they return with an album titled ARIRANG, drawing from one of Korea's most iconic traditional songs. This isn't simply about new music. It's about how a global pop act engages with heritage, identity, and symbolism at a moment when K-pop's influence is bigger than ever. From the choice of title to the scale of their upcoming performances, this comeback raises broader questions about culture, industry power, and global reach. So today, we take a closer look at what this moment could signal for BTS and for the future direction of K-pop. For more on this, we connect to Serabo Seji, Assistant Professor of Korean and East Asian Studies at Busan National University. A big welcome, Professor.
Hey.
And also joining us is Tamar Herman, a journalist and K-pop industry consultant. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you doing?
Thank you for joining us. So let's start with Ms. Herman. Like I've said, on March 20th, BTS is set to make their full group comeback with their fifth album, Arirang, their first complete return in almost 4 years. Mr. Herman, how high are expectations from the market and the fans as well? And what kind of changes do you foresee this bringing to the K-pop industry?
I think expectations are the highest like they could ever possibly be. This is BTS's first real comeback since before the pandemic. They did a few things, together once the pandemic ended, but they had to cancel their last major tour before the pandemic. So they did do the Permission to Dance a few shows, but it wasn't such a big scale. And then all the members had to enlist, and then they had their own solo career. So this feels like a big return to form. It's a new era for BTS, and like the anticipation is very high. The members have been doing a lot of preparation. They've done a lot of solo interviews, group interviews. They just covered GQ here in the US, which is a phenomenal feat for any boy band. I can't ever remember one in my lifetime, being on the cover of a magazine like GQ. And just generally, it feels like a really big moment where BTS is kind of moving forward in a new direction at a new pace that fans are really ready for. And I think where BTS left as a group and to come back, things are very different just generally in the world. For K-pop, a lot of things have changed, but I think at the same time, BTS's career is a little separate from the rest of the K-pop because it's such its own entity. So I think it's hard to say necessarily that BTS's comeback will mean any specific change for K-pop, but I think that there's a lot going on that's happening in K-pop right now. So I think BTS, of course, will play a role in it, but on their own, they're just in such a big moment.
Right. Many even say that they themselves are just a new genre themselves. Now, beyond the market impact, then, Professor Seji, there is also a deeper cultural layer here. BTS has chosen the title Arirang for their fifth album, referencing the Korean traditional folk song that's listed as the UNESCO heritage. So beyond tradition, what kind of symbolism does this carry?
Well, this seems like maybe an easy question to a non-specialist, but it's incredibly complicated. For one thing, we can't even call Arirang just simply a song. There are over 60 well-known arirang, and each of them has distinctly different lyrics, different rhythms, different melody. I'm actually directly quoting from my previously published work here. Arirang is preserved today as dozens of songs sung with different lyrics and with different regional flavors. As historian E. Taylor Atkins explains, it is less a song than a skeletal framework for musical and poetic expression. So to qualify as an arirang, a composition requires little more than the refrain, arirang, arirang, aririyo. And so arirang actually began to incorporate Western elements during the colonial era, and it became arguably the best-known song of the entire Japanese empire. The song was not already popular, not traditional culture, when the 1926 hit film Arirang used a version of the song arranged as a waltz in its soundtrack. And later that film became known as a resistance film, and therefore the title Arirang became associated with Korean nationalism and resisting the occupation by Japan. And that is really complicated because some of the best known pop song versions of Arirang were popularized during the colonial era. And through these orchestral versions, like the one arranged by John Barnes Chance in 1965, a lot of Koreans are now more accustomed to hearing a westernized 4/4 version of arirang than a version that retains traditional qualities, like using the semachi rhythm pattern. So perhaps I sound overly conservative saying this, but I hope that however BTS is using arirang, that it connects Koreans in the world to a traditional version of arirang and arirang as a vehicle for resistance to cultural imperialism.
Right. So it definitely sheds light on the traditions of Korea, and it could be a statement about identity and heritage as well. Let's continue talking about this music. So BTS said that this Arirang album, it captures inner stories, longing, and also love. From a musical approach, Ms. Herman, what kind of changes or evolution can we expect from this album?
I think just generally, again, this is coming back to the fact that we're coming back to BTS after a period of absence, of growth, but also not necessarily absence. The members have released solo albums. Music trends have changed generally. You have to assume that people's musical artistry changes over time. They've just spent quite a lot of time working on this album. They very publicly they very publicly said that they were going to go work with producers in LA for a few months. And so they were really like invested in what this album would sound like. And they also are coming back with several years now of thought that they can put into this album. So I think it's going to be an album that shows both great change and also retrospective reflection on their past. So I'm excited to see what it shows. And they've been very much focusing on the theme of love, which has always been a forefront of a lot of their albums. So I for one, am personally really excited to see how they're going to relay it this time.
Right. Many of us are really excited to look forward to that. Now, another thing to look up to is that BTS is scheduled to hold a solo concert at Gwanghwamun Square in March, first in Korean popular music history, of course. It has been reported that they'll use the historic road once walked by the kings from the Gyeongbokgung Palace to Gwanghwamun Square as part of the stage setting. Professor Seji, what kind of symbolic message do you believe this actually conveys?
Well, it's kind of like a techno ritual. It's this method of reactivating history in a very technologically mediated present, because except for the very few lucky people who get to watch this in person, the rest of us are consuming it through screens, right? So BTS's choice to make this comeback at Gyeongbokgung and in front of Gwanghwamun is designed to symbolically draw attention to Korean history for millions of people from around the world who are going to be tuning into that Netflix broadcast. Koreans are accustomed to seeing Gwanghwamun, but the intentional juxtaposition of this very modern, very technologically advanced performance and the symbolic gate of a palace that dates back to 1395 is going to show Korean history in a new light. In fact, did you know that the gate was reconstructed several times and it was only rebuilt properly, reopening in 2010? So this is actually a very complex place which has experienced much turmoil, and it's wonderful to see it being brought alive and brought to the forefront in this way. But when Korean pop stars are placed within a space of Korean heritage, sometimes the heritage gets overwhelmed by the presentation, even the technology of what it is to present a pop concert, because you've got stage lights and video screens and they are pulling the eye. You're supposed to be looking at the artist, not the setting, which in this case, the setting is very symbolic, right? So it's my guess that the procession through the palace to Gwanghwamun, which is reported probably to be recorded in advance, that part of the broadcast is what's going to actually show Korean history, Korean architecture the best.
Right. Our professor said you mentioned a lot of interesting topics, and we will cover each of them as we continue to talk. But first, I want to touch upon the BTS putting Korean elements front and center, not only through their music, but also through their choice of space. Ms. Herman, how is this strategy being received by fans abroad?
Generally, it's been a very important part of BTS's identity. Fan translators in general have been a huge major part of BTS's growth because you don't just have exact translations, but interpretation of what BTS are saying throughout their music and what they're doing through their craft in general. So fans have always been very receptive to the Koreanness of BTS. I mean, they've been exploring their own identities through Korean, like their own Korean identities were very present in many of the earlier albums where they sang songs in using their own like Saturi dialects. And then over time, you'll see, as the professor was speaking, I kept on thinking of the member Suga's own music videos. He's often taken on the role of the king in his music videos, and they've filmed and performed in very important cultural spaces in the past. So I think fans are very much receptive to it. I've seen a trend where people are going to be wearing hanbok to the concerts, and I've seen some hanbok designers like latching onto this, and it's very it's fun to see what people are doing and how they're engaging with it. And uh, I hope people learn as much as they enjoy it.
Right, let's hope for that. But as our Professor Seji just pointed out a while ago, there's also some concerns. Korean traditional musical elements are reinterpreted in modern K-pop, but there are worries for them becoming merely a decorative factor. So in terms of music and performance, Professor Seji, how can BTS move over that kind of limitation and concerns?
Honestly, it's going to take a lot. I think that RM and probably all the members are aware that the world has been consuming Korean things, elements of Korean tradition, as bits of spice. That to many people, the K is actually exoticization. And therefore, the use of Korean tradition always risks falling into this sort of trap of stereotyping or exoticizing your own country. Unfortunately, an artist like BTS can have a certain intention when they create music or when they use a set designed to highlight Korean tradition, but audiences will receive the performance and music in their own way, no matter what BTS's intention might be. So we've seen this throughout BTS's history. Fans told each other, oh, look, this is a reference to Nietzsche. But that doesn't mean that a lot of people actually went out and started engaging with the German philosopher's ideas, right? So therefore, although I hope that something about the Gwanghwamun concert and the content on the Arirang album actually pushes fans to learn more deeply about Korean history and culture, I recognize that all BTS can do is point them in that direction, and it's actually up to fans to move beyond the surface.
Right, definitely. So it's really how authentic we can communicate with the fans. Now let's go back to the scale of the concert itself. It will host 15,000 people, but it will also be live streamed to around 190 countries via Netflix. Ms. Herman, what does this combination of a symbolic local space and a global OTT platform reveal about the evolution of K-pop, the industry?
Yeah, just before I go back to that, I want to just add to the professor's point about authentic communication for the fans. The fans have historically also really engaged with the themes and the philosophies that they've put forward in their music. So I think like this might be another really great opportunity. But again, like you say, it's a matter of people wanting to learn about it. So we have to hope that people will engage however they're doing it, whether in person or over the internet, in a way that is positive and not stereotyping. And I think just generally the OTT element of it, K-pop has, going back to that, K-pop has always been really good, and Korean entertainment in general has always been really good at using various forms of media to tell the same story. So transmedia marketing and storytelling has always been a really important part of K-pop. You've got an artists that are always online, they're always doing videos, they're always on different apps. And this is like another level of that, I think, but it's taking just the concert to the audiences in real time. We see that people really love live streamed events. We see this with sports events, and music is now becoming the next platform just generally. And so BTS going at this major scale at a really important place, you know, the location isn't just necessarily historically important, but also that's where a lot of the democracy protests in Korea, especially just famously, just happened. The major one that everyone in the world was looking towards. So I think that the location combined with the visibility is something that Korea, the entertainment industry, is really aware of and really capable at taking advantage of. And previously, one of the B-rolls was actually showing the light show that they put when Gwanghwamun, I think it was 2 years ago around the New Year, and I was actually there and I saw it and I thought, oh, this would be really cool for a larger event. And I'm really hoping they integrate that because you see kind of there's a storytelling in the way that Korean entertainment tends to use technology, and I think it's very interesting. And I think that really is represented by what BTS and their company is doing here.
Aside from that, another eye-opening factor was the tour numbers. Starting with concerts in Korea in April, BTS plans to launch a massive world tour spanning 34 cities and 82 shows. And their North American and European dates are already completely sold out, and some countries are even requesting additional shows. So what do these numbers actually tell us about the current global standing of BTS, Ms. Herman?
I think it's going to be one of the biggest tours that we see this year, if not over the next few years. I personally have tickets for a few dates, so would appreciate some more dates also.
Lucky
Um,
you.
it was really hard. I have really amazing friends, but I think that generally we see bigger tours becoming more of a cultural phenomena. Like Taylor Swift or Beyonce are well known for this at this point. Not only are they viral for like the moment itself for the concert, but it's like to partake in it is a new form of fandom communication or just like interpersonal communication. And people really go all out, they'll dress up. People will travel for it. There's a big boost to cities, economies. Cities now want to host these major concerts because they know fans will travel, they know fans will book. I saw a rinky-dinky motel in the Massachusetts area where the BTS is performing, like literally a Days Inn motel. I think it was going for over $1,000 a night when I looked, and that's honestly the norm for the hotels that are closest to a lot of these venues at the moment. So it's a really big boost. It's also obviously not great because it's price gouging. So there's a whole other conversation going on there. But I think generally the demand shows just how BTS has really gone above and beyond to become like the leaders of a generation. You're able to put on these tours that are not just moments and concerts that people go to and then they go home, but rather they're events and they're seismic and they're things that are going to elevate local economies quite immensely. And I don't want to downplay the economic impact that fans put into this also, but like it's bigger than just the idea of going to a show. It's so much greater than that. And I think they turned Las Vegas into a BTS city for a few days when they did their Permission to Dance tour. And I thought that was really phenomenal. They literally had the Bellagio fountain playing their songs. And to bring that feeling of a city being inclusion and over encompassing for like your concert, like what a phenomenal thing. And I think only a few people can really do that. And BTS are obviously up there.
Right, definitely. And it looks like the purple wave it's reaching a political arena too. We hear that the president of Mexico has reportedly requested additional tour dates too. Professor Seji, what kind of impact does the BTS tour have on Korea's national image and soft power?
Well, national image, yeah, lots of impact. But soft power, if you read my recent article in the East Asia Forum, I've lost a lot of my belief in soft power because no matter what goodwill BTS can garner from Mexican fans by adding another date, I don't see any proof that this will end up benefiting international diplomatic goals of the Republic of Korea. The request, however, demonstrates the impact, as Ms. Herman was just saying, of BTS, that BTS is so beloved, the demand to see them is so great that a national president could interject a request on behalf of eager fans. That's amazing. How many pop stars are even known by national leaders?
Definitely. So we will look forward to, BTS's next actions. And, it really goes beyond entertainment and they're becoming a form of cultural influence. We will look forward to that. And we hope to speak to you again after their return in just around 30 days. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights tonight, Professor Seji.
Thank you.
And Ms. Herman, of course, we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.